thanks everyone for joining. I'm Chuck Derry. I'm with Gender Violence Institute, and I'll be moderating. But let me just introduce this community of practice idea. The North American Men Engagement Network, NAMEN, this is our second event in this development of an ongoing series of community of practice events. So really the intent of this is to allow membership an opportunity to share their information, share their projects, share lessons learned, and then really get in some deep details as well around tools and procedures and forms and different things that people can use to possibly replicate these initiatives in their own communities or in their own area. We're really looking at, how do we engage men and boys, girls and women, transgender and non-gender conforming individuals to reshape and support communities and organizations in the development and implementation of gender justice initiatives directed at ending gender-based violence. So we'll be looking at both interventions, so how do you respond once the harm has occurred, and we're also looking at primary prevention. How do we stop this sexist oppression and violence before it even starts? So we're really pleased to have Humberto Carolo, he's the Managing Director of White Ribbon Canada, and his colleague Kate Bojin, and she's a coordinator of White Ribbon's National Community of Practice, to share their experience today with us around coordinating and engaging boys and men in gender justice issues. So in this session particularly, we've asked Kate and Humberto to really look at their National White Ribbons National Community of Practice initiative and how it was developed, the partnership engagement that they were involved in, 9 separate communities, very diverse communities, what kind of initiatives were implemented in those communities, how did the local context impact the initiatives, and also focusing on this national evaluation framework. So really, this is an evaluation process they engaged in to look at the results across these 9 pilot program communities, and then what their experiences were in exploration of the local context and what was crucial in development of the framework, and providing an evaluation resource tool that others can use and replicate. So it's very generous of you as well. Also, they will share information of their impact and promising practices report that they've developed across Canada, and I think they're just at the tail end of finishing up the Made in Canada online toolkit. So you have really appreciate both of you sharing the information with us today, because there is loads of information to be shared and very valuable. So again, we will have time for questions and engagement, so we get enough information to really determine, okay, could I do this in my community? Could I do this in my state, in my province, right? And so this is really the intent of these community of practice. So Humberto and Kate, I'm going to hand it off to you, and again, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you, NAMEN and all members for inviting us to lead this webinar with you. We're just in the process of sharing our screen. Are you able to see it?
Yes, it looks good.
Okay, perfect. So Kate and I are going to take turns through the presentation. So again, thanks for the invitation and for thinking of us. And it's always awesome to collaborate with all of you within NAMEN and beyond. As most of you, I'm not going to, since most of you know about White Ribbon, we're not going to spend too much time talking about the organization itself, other than to say that we've been around since 1991, and we focus on engaging men and boys in ending violence against women and promoting healthy relationships, healthy masculinities, and gender equality. And we do that at many levels, locally, nationally, regionally, and internationally as well. So programs focus on everything from capacity building with educators and service providers to research, resource development, to network building and collaboration, and frontline delivery of programs and engagements with youth, and then a whole lot of work at the global level as well. So here's some objectives for today's webinar from our point of view. So we really want to share with you our experience with the National Community of Practice here in Canada, and then we want to spend some time reviewing the National Evaluation Framework, which was one of the key deliverables in this project, and then also to share with you some challenges and the lessons that we learned along the way. And we really think that this will be helpful as NAMEN thinks further through the development of its own community of practice. So we want to respectfully acknowledge the contribution of all the community partners that worked alongside with us in this project. There were 9 of them. These were organizations across Canada that were funded by our federal government through the Status of Women Canada agency. And so they are the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters, the Broadway Neighborhood Center in Winnipeg, the Students' Commission of Canada, Changing Ways in London, Ontario, Chrysalis House, Les Essentiels, Nova Vita, and Actitudes Inuit Women of Canada, and CAFI. So our thanks to the partner organizations and to the funder for working with us and supporting us in this project. So just before we get into the actual community of practice and how it works, a little bit about our thinking in terms of the need for a community of practice and why this was important for us when we first started working on this 3 years ago. So first of all, we know that this work can feel lonely at times. There's only a few organizations in Canada and certainly not around the globe. So our sector is still pretty limited in terms of organizations working specifically on engaging men and boys. Projects are primarily time limited. They're small in scale. And so that we saw this as an opportunity to bring together this group of organizations who were funded by the government of Canada to engage in work with men and boys. We also wanted to share some of the learnings and the knowledge and best practices that we have developed and come across along the way in our history with these organizations, some of which were relatively new in engaging men and boys. So we thought that it would be good to do that for a community of practice. And also we wanted, just like we've done with NAMEN, to bring us all together to share knowledge and models and such. We thought it would be important for the funded organizations to have a similar space in Canada for that to happen. And then we also we saw an opportunity because all the projects required an evaluation framework. So we saw an opportunity to look at or to develop a national evaluation framework that looked at the outcomes and the indicators from each project and tried to bring them all together to demonstrate impact at a larger scale, right? Because often when these evaluation results remain with individual organizations and individual projects, it's hard to demonstrate impact just beyond that particular community. So we saw this as an opportunity to demonstrate impact at a larger scale. Is everybody able to follow and hear us properly so far?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, we got you.
Good. I'm glad our sound wasn't too great at the beginning, so it's good to know. Okay, so like I said earlier, this project began in October 2013, so we're just in the process of wrapping it up. It was 3 years in length, And White Ribbon served as the coordinator for the National Community of Practice. And these are the organizations, again, that participated, that were members of the COP. And here's where they came from. As you see, they're pretty well distributed, all the way from the Yellowknife in the Yukon to Alberta Council of Women's Shelters, which has members spread out throughout Alberta, Winnipeg and Manitoba, and then Ottawa, Ontario, London, Bradford, and Toronto, and then a couple of organizations from the East Coast as well. One key gap here was the lack of a francophone organization from Quebec, but a couple of the organizations involved also provided services to francophone communities in those regions. So here's the objectives for our community of practice. So to foster innovation, provide a space for learning and sharing, to share promising practices, and to keep up with challenges and gaps that organizations were experiencing in the delivery of their projects along the way. And the other one was the collaborative development of the evaluation framework, an online toolkit for engaging boys and young men in gender-based violence prevention. So this was really a collaborative development process, and then we'll talk about that a bit more later on. Then to also address capacity building needs for those organizations. So along the way, we had an opportunity to provide time and space for each organization to share their areas of expertise. And to profile and highlight some of the innovation in programs that were being implemented across the country from the perspective of each organization. And finally, to encourage the broad dissemination of our collaborative work and resources development. Here's some of our values. These were established very early on, again, in a collaborative way. Everybody contributed. So first and foremost, to acknowledge the accomplishments and continued work by leading women activists and women's organizations. So to really understand and value the fact that the work with men and boys wouldn't be possible today without the efforts, the struggles, and the activism of the early leaders in this movement, women, and organizations, women's organizations in particular. We really wanted to hone in on the partnership and collaborative aspects of the project and really promote that in every possible way. Inclusive practice as well, and value the diversity of our membership, regional and also cultural diversity, and to promote intersectionality in our work. And so Kate is going to take over from here.
Great, thanks, Humberto.
So, can I ask you a quick question on this? Tell me about why particularly you had shared values up here. Why did you have that as a foundation upon which you needed to work?
Yeah, I think that was a really critical starting point, actually, because we had such kind of a diverse membership base and different kinds of organizations that, coming together on developing shared values can really be a great foundation for going forward. And I think it's around building accountability too, and making sure we're being clear about our politics and values. So we identified those in our terms of reference as well. But I think for any COP development, it's a critical piece. I don't know, yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Great. So kind of delving more into the different phases. So I think we could think about it in 4 different phases across the 3-year initiative. So really the first 4 months were kind of the pre-planning stage and initiating relationships with these 9 project partners. White Ribbon had existing relationships with some organizations, but not all. So it was important that we prioritize that with new partners. So really, you know, the regular kind of stuff, project startup. So we had their funding confirmed through Status of Women Canada. I was brought on board as coordinator for this COP. We got started on some terms of reference that would really provide a strong foundation for us in going forward with timelines and activities. And then I thought, I'm an academic at heart too. I really wanted to do a literature review on kind of different models of communities of practice. So I carried that out in the vein of different pieces we could really adapt and use. We then created a brief online needs assessment, which I sent out to all of the 9 organizations to kind of gauge what their existing capacity and expertise was on male engagement specifically. And so what we found was really a wide range of comfort level and expertise. So that was something for us to consider going forward. Then really the next 8 months was really around fostering those relationships with our partners. So I was able to meet with all of our 9 partners across Canada. So it was really fast and furious first year and a bit. But and our approach there was really to hear what they would want from the community of practice, share our objectives, be there to answer any questions in person. But that face time was really important. Then kind of delving into, upon, fostering these relationships, going into the project deliverables. So really delving into the development of the evaluation framework, and then conducting another round of in-person site visits with our partners on if they have any further feedback on it and insights. And our other major deliverable around the toolkit development. So I've been working with all of our project partners to really highlight the innovative work that's been happening in the last couple of years across Canada. So we are very close to finalizing that toolkit. And I'm excited to share that with everyone very soon. And then we're currently in the stage of the evaluation. I've conducted 3 interviews with our project partners on strengths of the COP, some gaps, really kind of gauging their insights and participation. And then of course the project reporting, finishing that. So that's kind of just a really kind of top level across different phases of the COP initiative.
So Kate,
Yeah.
how often did you do site visits?
So I did 2 rounds of nationwide travel.
So it was two on-site visits for this project?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, very good. Great.
So in terms of our membership, obviously communities of practices can really vary in terms of their membership. Our initiative really was a closed network, so we were mandated to work with those 9 organizations specifically who obtained funding through Status of Women Canada. So we thought it would be wise to kind of create different membership streams. So this might be interesting for NAMEN as you think about your different membership. So we wanted to really have kind of an active model. So we wanted partners to be active members. And then White Ribbon was the COP facilitator. And then of course, our funder, Status of Women, played more as an advisory role. So we keep them in the loop for different deliverables and major goings on. So 3 kind of major membership streams for us. So this is what we did. We had quarterly web conferences across the 3 years. So I thought I would give you kind of an idea of our agenda most times. So we do a nationwide check-in. We would have a presentation by a COP member organization on their model or whatever they think is compelling to present to the group. We then do a COP project update from White Ribbon, have a discussion, and then share kind of any events and opportunities. We just kind of stick to that agenda pretty consistently throughout the years, and of course was flexible for any kind of adaptation or different content people wanted to go over. So we use group spaces as an online platform. So we have probably close to 100 male engagement resources up there now, different research publications, tools. And then of course the in-person site visits, which I spoke to, and then really providing feedback and contributing to our deliverables was probably a major source of people's time, I would say. And then of course White Ribbon, we were the main liaison with all 9 project partners, so trying to connect people with similar challenges, or find a tool that would be helpful, I would do that. So really to be that catalyst to address any burning questions or seeking new resources. And then of course we had a newsletter, and I did some social media as well. Great. So our approach, we really wanted to build excitement, build buy-in across our partners. So we really wanted a shared leadership model. This is not a top-down White Ribbon-led initiative. So we, joint ownership of all project outputs, including the evaluation framework and toolkit. And we really were flexible in however organizations wanted to participate. That was a really important feature of the COP. And then again, just doing a solid lit review on existing models and creating our terms of reference. Great. So moving towards some of the objectives of the evaluation framework. So again, co-creation, collaborative process, really throughout its development. We wanted to challenge the more top-down approach to these kinds of publications. So we really, this was applied to evaluation data across the 9 projects to kind of get a sense of some shared results. And of course to inform our impact and promising practices report and online toolkit. So just in terms of the document itself, we think it's really unique and exciting. It's not just a framework, it kind of it elaborates on some guiding principles. We think it really kind of offers a wide range of application and is pretty user-friendly for those at various kind of experience levels at engaging men and boys. It talks about the importance of context in the local community for any sort of evaluation plan and process. Goes into some enabling factors and issues of sustainability, importance of process and community readiness to take on these issues, and also goes into some limitations. In the end, it is just a tool. It needs to be a part of a bigger picture. So some yeah.
Excuse me. What do you mean by it needs to be part of a bigger picture?
Yeah. So I think it needs to kind of go hand in hand with broader kind of strategic objectives, and really does only represent a moment in time as well. So yeah, I think we have to be careful of how much emphasis we place on on a specific tool and
Okay, great, thanks.
And of course, we have the 8 outcome areas that are elaborated on. in the evaluation framework. And based on kind of what we've seen for how our partners ran with this tool and used it, really the first 4 outcome areas were very strongly represented in folks' programs. And I think that had to do with really the initial objectives that were set out in the programs. So awareness raising, knowledge and understanding, attitudinal change, skill development. Skill development a little less so, but those were really the main focus areas for reporting for our partners, as well as partnerships and coalition building. That was again mandated in many ways by the government as well, but obviously very crucial for this kind of work. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, so and you'll recognize these obviously these outcome areas are inspired by the spectrum of prevention as well. Right? So here they are, the 4 areas that levels of change that we developed, again inspired by the spectrum of prevention. So we wanted to look at those outcome areas across the community level, the organizational level, the social level, and individual. So individual is pretty straightforward, right? We're talking about individual knowledge, behavior, skills, advocacy. And then social it has to do more with peer groups. So thinking about like sports teams or other type of similar men's groups, for example. Organizational is more like the type of change that happens at that level, the policy change, the strategic planning, the team building, the skills of the organization to do this work. And then at the community level, so that's where advocacy, broad-based advocacy would take place. So just as an example, looking at one of the particular outcome areas. So this is how it works within the National Evaluation Framework. So the outcome area number 7 deals with partnerships and coalition building. So two particular outcomes were identified for that to increase collective action among men and men's groups with women's organizations towards the prevention of violence against women and girls, and increase support for a diversity of partners, for example, the private sector, non-profits, academic. And then the indicators are listed along those 2 rows. So as an example, within the community capacity, the indicator there is the number of collective efforts addressing gender-based violence in collaboration with women's organizations, and percentage of partners agreeing that engaging men and boys in gender-based violence prevention efforts is important. So this is overly technical, obviously, and it it makes sense in the context of specific projects. This evaluation framework is it's presented in a way that can either be sort of incorporated as a whole into the planning for a particular project, or you can look at where your project fits in within these particular outcome areas, and then pick and choose the indicators that you think would be relevant to the kind of activities that you're implementing. And obviously, we're only providing a very brief highlight of this framework. The NEF is available on our website. It's a fulsome document, so you're welcome to download it and to go into more detail. And please do get in touch with us if you have any questions, or if we can support you anyway in terms of incorporating that framework into the work that you're doing.
So Humberto, are you saying that people could use this and edit it and make it work for in their locations?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Absolutely. So it's already happening. We just last week we learned of a community-based organization that has that is applying the framework, and as usual, just provide credit to the organizations involved, and we're good, because this is exactly what it was meant for, right? We wanted to create this kind of evaluation tool that could be easily used by other organizations interested in doing this kind of work.
That's great.
As a means to strengthen capacity in the sector overall.
That's great, Humberto. We're some of the sound is getting got a little bit funky there, but I think we caught most of what you were saying there.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. And if you need me to repeat anything at some point, let me know. Okay, so now we're going to get into the lessons learned from the community of practice. So obviously there were certain limitations. We had a lot of interest from other organizations that were not funded by Status of Women Canada, and because of the limitations in funding and just in terms of the scope of what we could do, it was closed in this particular case. So we have a different, oh, there we go, okay. Sorry, let me go back to the other one. I got it really confused here. The resource question was significant in this case, and this is something that I've already shared in our preliminary discussions within NAMEN as a recommendation for our own community of practice, is that a lot of these organizations have limited funds. They have a small team of individuals carrying out programming, and it's difficult for organizations to commit to both carrying frontline work and then providing their staff with time to participate in this kind of networking and collaboration. So that's something to be kept in mind, and it's a resource question that needs to be addressed right from the get-go. So when a proposal is being developed, it's recommended that the members of the COP be properly resourced to participate, because that increases buy-in, it increases accessibility, representation, and all of that. So it serves multiple purposes. And then we're recommending that a certain percentage be dedicated to the participation of women's shelters and organizations, again, due to the under-resourced nature of the work of these organizations, and the accessibility and representation and accountability as well factors. So we would have loved to have more in-person meetings. We would have loved to have the opportunity to bring the members of the community of practice together in person. There were just the funds to do that, for us to be able to do that, were just not there. But so that was a lesson that we learned, and that if we were to do it again, I think we would be much more forthcoming with a funder. This was a funder limitation, so we had the interest in doing this from the get-go, but
Humberto,
agree to it. So, but now we see that it could have to come together. Yeah.
could you try repeating that? We didn't quite get the audio.
Okay.
It was distorted. Audio was distorted for some reason.
Okay. So the opportunity to bring, is it better now?
Yes. Yes.
So we really missed out on the opportunity to bring together in person the members of the community of practice, and this was due to a funding limitation that was that came from the funder, and so we really missed out on that opportunity. And if we were to do it all again, we would have been more forthcoming with the funder, and would have insisted on on including that opportunity. So just as within NAMEN, and we've seen the benefits of when we all have a chance to come together and to plan and to look at future directions and such. That kind of benefit and opportunity is significant, and it should be considered in a community of practice as well. So there's a gap in gaining positive support from senior management initially, to the extent of participation from project managers. So we had a bit of a technical glitch in this project because White Ribbon started its community of practice project about 6 months after the individual projects had started. And so the way that it was communicated with the participating organizations kind of left them feeling that it was an add-on to their funding requirements. And so it took quite a bit of time and effort on Kate's part to really work with the senior management of these organizations to help them understand what we were trying to accomplish with the community of practice, and to get their buy-in and participate. And in the end, Kate was very successful with that.
You know, one of the things that I'm noticing, if you go back to that previous screen, Humberto, just for a minute, is you were talking about using the primary spectrum of prevention, right? And looking at the socio-ecological model. And I'm noticing in your first bullet that you have institutionalized these this concept of accountability, and so that the words that you are using are put into practice. When you say 25% of your budget goes to the participation of women's shelters and organizations. So I really like that you are you're a great model of this primary prevention, where you're really looking at organizational practice change to change social norms and this community of practice. So that's a great example.
Absolutely, thank you. So I already mentioned the first point here. We would also recommend a organizational needs assessment versus individual asset mapping. I think that would be much more comprehensive, and would allow us to better understanding the gaps and opportunities versus just looking at what's out there. The amount of time that's required and the staffing is important in the administration and coordination of community practice. In our case, we were really fortunate to have Kate with her level of experience and knowledge in this area of work, but not all organizations had the fortune to be able to we're not as fortunate to be able to dedicate a full-time staff position to the coordination of their projects as well. It's important that we had very specific deliverables and timelines and budget lines and such. So we came up with a healthy balance between staying true to what we promised to the funder, and then sort of realigning, being flexible, responding to needs as they emerged. And so we really had to employ that throughout this project in order to strengthen the relationship, to build trust, and to, again, increase access to participation for organizations, because we were not all on the same page or worked at the same pace or had the same resources to be able to contribute in the manner and time and capacity that we needed. And then to encourage individual members to bring forward their leadership, their capacity, and their skills, and to share that expertise and that leadership with a community of practice. So it was very collaborative, and in the end, the 5 of the members presented specific capacity building workshops and presentations to the community of practice. And we wish we had time and an opportunity for more.
Thanks. Great. So now kind of exploring some of the challenges that we experience across this 3-year initiative. So, you know, breadth versus depth. So during our quarterly web calls, we really, just because of the number of folks on the phone, we could really only do more of a surface dialogue on where people are at with their projects, you know, maybe a concrete challenge, but it was hard to really kind of have a deeper dialogue just within that format. You know, so we spoke to kind of in-person, the value of in-person meetings. That could be a forum where we could have really got more into depth on programs. So I think one strategy is, you know, offering additional opportunities for collaboration. I can share that I spoke with one of our partners on the interview that they conducted on the COP, and she mentioned, you know, why not have kind of a buddy system, like a matching of practitioners where you can kind of turn to that person, go into maybe something in more depth. So that's just one example of a process we could have done. Another challenge was, again, everyone was at a really different place with their own understandings of toxic masculinities, gender-based violence prevention, strength-based models. So we really had to be cognizant of that, and you know, trying to really grow together when everyone's kind of at different levels was a bit challenging. But I think one strategy could be just offering more capacity development opportunities for specific organizations. Some other core challenges. Obviously, we had you know, kind of inconsistent participation across all COP members, but that was really due to a lack of resources and not intention, or so there was strong desire to participate, just it became difficult because of lack of resources. So, you know, our strategy again was just flexible membership and participation. We would offer, you know, kind of 2 to 3 month timelines for providing feedback and insights on deliverables. So, you know, very, very flexible for participation. And then another challenge that we had to navigate was around staff turnover. So, you know, I think I experienced close to 12 turnovers, both at senior management and project staff levels as well. So that was a matter of me really tracking an engagement spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets. I'd be happy to share it with you too. But really kind of gauging, okay, who do I need to connect with who's new, sharing documents and terms of reference, doing an intro call. So I had to really kind of navigate that throughout the 2.5 years. But again, with that, you also get new energy and you know, kind of a new flavor for participation. So